The courtroom was tense, so quiet you could hear the air conditioning hum. Everyone was staring at the woman standing near the witness box. Her name was Danielle Brooks, a 32-year-old single mother from Atlanta. She wasn't a criminal, she wasn't even a witness. She was there to speak up for her younger brother, Malik, who had been wrongly accused of resisting arrest. But what started as a hearing was about to turn into something no one in that courthouse would ever forget. Danielle stood with her hands folded, her chin raised. "Your Honor," she said softly, "my brother didn't resist. The body cam shows." Before she could finish, Officer Crane, a bulky white cop with a buzz cut and the kind of arrogance that filled a room, stepped forward and interrupted her. "The footage is irrelevant," he said sharply. "This woman's wasting the court's time." The judge frowned but didn't stop him. Danielle looked at him, calm but fierce. "Irrelevant? That video shows you pushing him when his hands were already up." The audience murmured. The courtroom deputy gave a warning glare. Crane took a step closer. "Watch your mouth, lady." Danielle didn't flinch. "I am watching it. Are you watching your conscience?" That one sentence hit him harder than any punch could have. His face went red. You could see the veins in his neck tense up. And then it happened. He slapped her. The sound cracked through the courtroom like a gunshot. Everyone froze. Even the judge gasped, standing up in disbelief. Danielle's head snapped to the side, her braid swinging across her shoulder. Her cheek stung, but her eyes burned with something deeper. She straightened slowly, looking at him with a calmness that made his anger look small. "Are you done?" she whispered. He sneered. "You people never learn your place." And that was the last thing he said before the world saw something they'd replay a million times online later. Danielle didn't yell. She didn't curse. She moved, smooth, fast and precise. In one motion, she turned her body sideways, grabbed his wrist, and flipped him over her shoulder. A full judo throw, clean and perfect. The 6'2" officer hit the ground hard, the echo bouncing off the courtroom walls. His gun clattered across the floor. Gasps erupted. Someone screamed. The bailiff ran forward. But Danielle didn't attack again. She just stood there, breathing steadily, her hand trembling slightly from adrenaline. "I told you," she said quietly, "my brother didn't fight. We were raised to defend." The judge shouted, "Order! Order in the court!" banging his gavel so hard it cracked the wood. Security rushed in, handcuffs ready. But even they hesitated, because the cameras were rolling. Every local reporter, every spectator with a phone, everyone had just seen a police officer hit a civilian and get taken down in front of the law. "Don't touch her!" a woman shouted from the audience. She was defending herself. Danielle looked at her brother Malik, sitting behind the defense table, his face pale. He mouthed, "Danny, what did you do?" She shook her head slightly. "What I had to." An hour later, the courtroom was cleared. Danielle sat in a holding room, wrists cuffed, waiting. Her cheek was swollen, but she didn't seem broken. If anything, there was something powerful about her silence. A young reporter named Kayla Reed slipped in, pretending to bring water. She whispered, "I saw everything. I'm gonna make sure the world sees it too." Danielle gave her a small nod. "Just show the truth. That's all I ask." Kayla looked around. "Do you have any idea who that officer is? He's been accused of brutality 3 times before. All dismissed." Danielle's eyes flickered. Of course they were. Before she could say more, a guard came to escort her out. As they walked through the back hallway, Danielle caught her reflection in a window, handcuffed, bruised, but unbroken. A memory flashed in her mind. She was 12, barefoot on a dusty dojo mat, her father teaching her to fall and rise. "Power isn't in the hit," he used to say. "It's in the control." She exhaled slowly. Back in the main hallway, Officer Crane was sitting on a bench, holding an ice pack to his back. He glared at her as she passed. "You think you're some kind of hero," he growled. Danielle stopped. "No," she said softly. "Just a sister who's tired." That sentence hit him harder than the throw. News broke within hours. The headline blazed across every channel. Black woman defends herself after officer strikes her in court. Clips flooded TikTok and X. Comment sections exploded. Some called her a queen. Others said she was violent. But no one could ignore the footage, especially the part where she stood still after flipping him, refusing to attack again. By nightfall, hashtag started trending. Hashtag justice for Danielle, hashtag courtroom flip, hashtag no more silence. Civil rights activists called for her release. Even a few police officers quietly reached out, saying they were ashamed of what they saw. But not everyone was cheering. Behind the scenes, the local police union was furious. They demanded charges. The DA's office called an emergency meeting. They wanted to make an example out of her. Danielle's public defender warned her, "They're going to charge you with assaulting an officer." She laughed bitterly. "Assault? He slapped me first." "I know," the lawyer said quietly. "But they'll spin it. They always do." Danielle's mother, Miss Evelyn, walked in, tears in her eyes. "Baby, you should have just walked away." Danielle's voice cracked. "Mama, I've been walking away my whole life." Meanwhile, Officer Crane sat in his truck that night, staring at the replay on his phone. Over and over. Watching himself lose control in front of everyone. Watching her move with grace. No rage, just power. Something about that haunted him. He tried to call his supervisor, but the phone went to voicemail. He tossed it aside and punched the steering wheel. But then, he saw something else in the reflection of his dashboard. Himself. Red-faced, violent, small. He'd spent years thinking he was untouchable. But that one woman, in a courtroom full of people, made him feel something he hadn't felt in years. Shame. The next morning, Danielle was brought to court again, this time in chains. The public seats were packed, journalists everywhere. The judge looked exhausted. "Ms. Brooks," he said, "you are charged with assaulting a police officer during court proceedings. How do you plead?" Danielle raised her chin. "Not guilty." Her voice echoed through the room. The prosecutor started listing her aggression, showing the clip, but every time they tried to frame her as violent, the video betrayed them. The slap came first. The throw came after. It was clear. But justice isn't always about what's clear. The judge sighed. "Until we determine bail, you'll remain in custody." People shouted from the benches, activists, friends, even strangers. "Let her go. That's self-defense." Danielle just looked at the judge calmly. "With all due respect, Your Honor, I hope one day you realize silence is also a choice." Her words hit like a sermon. That night, in her cell, Danielle sat cross-legged on the cot. A guard brought her mail, a small envelope with no name, just a handwritten note. "I saw what happened. I know who you are. Don't give up." No signature. Just a tiny symbol in the corner, a badge with a single slash across it. Her eyes narrowed. Someone inside the system was watching. She folded the note, placed it in her pocket, and closed her eyes. Outside, protesters began gathering around the courthouse, candles in hand. The chant grew louder by the hour, "Justice for Danielle." But what no one knew yet was that this courtroom scandal was about to expose something much bigger. Because that officer she flipped, he wasn't just any cop. He was tied to a secret internal network that had been covering up dozens of misconduct cases. And Danielle's case had just cracked it open. The night sky over downtown Atlanta glowed red and blue from the police lights bouncing off buildings. Crowds had grown around the courthouse. Protesters, cameras, preachers, and strangers who had never met Danielle Brooks but felt like they knew her now. Her name was everywhere. The woman who stood up. The woman who flipped the cop. The woman who didn't break. Inside her jail cell, Danielle lay awake, staring at the cracked ceiling. The sound of chants faintly echoed through the narrow window bars. "Justice for Danielle." She closed her eyes, breathing in slow. Her father's voice came back to her again. "Don't let anger drive you. Let purpose do it." A knock came on the metal door. "Brooks," said a voice. It was Officer Maya Torres, one of the only black female officers in that precinct. She stepped in quietly. "You got a visitor." Danielle sat up. "Who?" Torres hesitated. "You'll want to see him." They walked down the corridor, cuffs still on Danielle's wrists. When they reached the visitation room, she froze. Sitting behind the glass was attorney Victor Hale, the same man who once defended high-ranking police officers in brutality cases. He adjusted his glasses, expression unreadable. "Ms. Brooks," he began, "I'm not here on behalf of the police department." Danielle raised an eyebrow. "Then who sent you?" "I represent someone who believes your case can expose corruption in the department. But only if you cooperate." Her voice was firm. "Cooperate how?" Hale slid a folder through the opening at the bottom of the glass. Inside were printed emails, reports, and photos, each with Officer Crane's name on them. "Your incident wasn't random," Hale said. "Crane was part of a group that's been falsifying arrests for years, targeting certain neighborhoods. There's a cover-up, and your case just forced it into the light." Danielle flipped through the pages. The deeper she read, the harder her stomach knotted. Photos of bruised suspects. Reports marked, "Lost evidence." Officers promoted despite complaints. She looked up. "So this is bigger than me." He nodded. "Much bigger. But if you go public, they'll try to destroy you first." Danielle exhaled slowly. "They already tried." Meanwhile, across town, Officer Crane sat alone in a bar. His phone buzzed non-stop, voicemails, texts, death threats. The department had suspended him, pending review, but everyone knew what that meant. He was the scapegoat. "Can't show your face anywhere, huh?" a voice said behind him. Crane turned. It was Detective Riker, his old partner, tall, sharp-eyed, the kind of man who smiled only when he lied. "Guess they're letting the internet run the department now," Riker said, sipping his beer. Crane grunted. "You think this is funny? That woman humiliated me in front of cameras." Riker leaned in. "You hit her first. What did you expect?" Crane's jaw tightened. "She disrespected me." Riker gave a half-smirk. "She exposed you." He tossed a folded document on the table. "Word is, Internal Affairs found something in your locker. If you don't clean this up fast, they'll drag you down, and me with you." Crane's eyes flicked down. Inside the paper was a note. "They know about Section 12. His blood ran cold. He looked up sharply, but Riker was already gone. The next morning, Danielle was brought to a small interview room. To her surprise, Maya Torres was waiting there, not as a guard, but as an ally. "I shouldn't even be doing this," Torres whispered. "But I've seen the footage. I saw the reports. You were right." Danielle looked at her. "Then help me prove it." Torres slid a flash drive across the table. "This has body cam footage that was never released. From 3 months ago. Same officer, same behavior. The department buried it." Danielle frowned. "Why give this to me?" "Because I can't say it out loud," Torres said. "But maybe you can." Before Danielle could reply, the door burst open. 2 senior officers stormed in. "Torres, step away from the inmate." They snatched the flash drive. Torres looked helplessly at Danielle, mouthing, "I'll fix this." But Danielle knew the risk. That kind of evidence didn't just disappear, it got buried deep. And if they were burying it now, it meant they were scared. That afternoon, Victor Hale appeared again. "The press is calling. They want an interview," he said. "But once you speak, you can't take it back." Danielle smiled faintly. "I'm not scared of truth." He nodded. "Then tell it your way." The next day, live on national television, Danielle appeared from jail via video call. The host's voice was cautious. "Ms. Brooks, millions saw the video of what happened in court. What do you want the world to understand?" Danielle looked directly at the camera. "I want them to know that standing up for yourself isn't violence. It's survival." She paused, her voice trembling slightly. "My brother's trial was supposed to be about justice. But justice doesn't live in these walls. It lives in people brave enough to say no when something's wrong." The host leaned in. "And what do you say to those calling you dangerous?" Danielle's eyes hardened. "If defending my dignity makes me dangerous, then so be it. But I didn't attack anyone. I defended myself from a man who forgot what his badge means." The comments section exploded instantly. Support flooded in from everywhere: celebrities, activists, even retired judges. That same night, the flash drive that Torres tried to deliver leaked online anonymously. And just like that, the storm exploded. The footage showed Crane violently throwing a teenager against a car, muttering a slur under his breath. The department had marked it as lost file. Within 24 hours, protests tripled in size. Reporters camped outside the precinct. The mayor demanded an inquiry. And suddenly, the narrative shifted. Danielle wasn't just the woman who flipped a cop. She was the woman who flipped the system. But the more the truth spread, the more dangerous things became. One evening, while Hale was driving home, a black SUV followed him for 6 blocks. Then another. He parked and confronted them, but they sped off before he could get a plate number. He called Danielle from his office later that night. "They're watching me now too. You've rattled something big." Danielle's voice on the phone was calm. "Then that means we're close." Meanwhile, Officer Crane had vanished from public view. His apartment was empty. His badge and gun, gone. Detective Riker received a single message on his burner phone: "If I go down, you go down with me." That same night, a local news channel released a leaked internal memo, subject, "Cover-up Protocol, Officer Conduct and Media Suppression." Dozens of names listed, including Crane, Riker, and 2 captains. The city erupted. Back in jail, Danielle heard the news from another inmate who shouted through the bars, "Girl, they exposing them all. You see the TV." She smiled faintly. Good. But her peace didn't last long. That evening, the lights in her block flickered. 2 guards came for her, men she didn't recognize. "Transfer," one said curtly. "Court orders." She frowned. "What court?" "Move," he barked. As they walked her down a dim hallway, her instincts flared. Something felt off. The air was heavy, too quiet. Halfway down, one guard whispered to the other, "You sure about this?" The other snapped, "Just do your job." And that's when Danielle knew, this wasn't a transfer. It was a setup. Before they could shove her into the van, she turned sharply, slamming her shoulder into the taller guard. He stumbled back. The second guard reached for his taser, but Danielle kicked it out of his hand. In seconds, she was running, barefoot, handcuffed, but running. Through the back corridor, through the emergency door, out into the rain. Sirens blared. She ducked behind a dumpster, chest heaving. Somewhere inside the building, she could hear radios screaming her name. She had 2 choices: go back and risk being silenced forever, or keep running and find someone who could help her finish what she started. Her decision came in a heartbeat. She ran. 2 days later, social media exploded again. Breaking: Danielle Brooks missing after court transfer. Family demands answers. News anchors speculated she'd been abducted. Some said she'd escaped. But no one knew the truth. She was alive, hiding in an old dojo on the city's east side, the same one her father used to train her in. Inside the dusty gym, she found an old framed photo on the wall, her as a child, standing next to her father in a white GI. Beneath it, written in chalk, "Never bow to injustice." She touched the glass gently. "Guess you were right, Daddy." Just then, a door creaked behind her. She turned, and saw Officer Maya Torres standing there, soaked from the rain, holding a duffel bag. "I told you I'd fix this," Torres said, setting it down. Inside the bag were files, hard drives, and photos. "This is everything," she whispered. "The network, the payments, the officers involved. It's all here. But if we release it, we'll both be targets." Danielle took a deep breath. "Then we make it count." Torres nodded. "There's one more thing," she said, pulling out a phone. "It's live stream ready. You tell the truth in real time. No editing, no spin. The world sees it all." Danielle looked down at the cracked screen, her reflection flickering back at her. "I've been silent too long," she said softly. "Time to speak." As rain poured outside, Danielle hit "Go Live." The feed lit up instantly, thousands, then tens of thousands of viewers. Her voice was steady, low, powerful. "They called me violent," she said. "But violence is silence when injustice keeps winning." She held up one of the files. "These are reports they hid. Evidence they destroyed. People they hurt. Then she named the officers. One by one. Every name connected to the corruption ring. Within minutes, the live chat filled with fire emojis, hearts, and rally cries. The broadcast was copied, shared, and mirrored across every platform before the police even realized what was happening. By the time they traced her signal, it was too late. Danielle looked at the camera one last time. This isn't about me anymore. It's about everyone who's ever been silenced. And I'm done being quiet. Then she ended the stream. As she turned to pack up, Torres looked out the window. They'll come for us now. Danielle nodded. Let them. But this time, the world's watching. Outside, sirens began to close in, red and blue lights reflecting off the rain. And somewhere deep inside those flashing lights, Officer Crane was coming too. He wanted revenge. But what was about to happen next would shock the world even more. Because the truth wasn't finished yet. It was only getting started. The night was thick with rain and sirens. The glow of red and blue lights cut through the darkness, bouncing off puddles outside the old dojo where Danielle Brooks stood with Officer Maya Torres. Inside, the flickering lights barely lit their faces. The city outside roared, but inside, it was silent, too silent. Danielle glanced at Torres. You said they'd come. Looks like you were right. Torres nodded, eyes fixed on the window. They've got every unit out there. The moment you hit go live, you became their biggest threat. Danielle tightened her fists. Then let them come. I didn't expose them just to run again. Torres swallowed hard. You don't understand. Crane's with them. Danielle froze. What? Word came through the radio, Torres said. He's not suspended anymore. Someone reinstated him off record. They want him to clean up their mess. Danielle's jaw clenched. You mean bury it? The rain outside grew louder, drumming against the old dojo roof like a heartbeat. The sound of boots splashing through puddles drew closer. Torres reached for her weapon. We hold them off until my backup arrives. Danielle shook her head. No. We show them we're not scared. Cameras already saw the truth. If they touch us now, the world will see it. Torres frowned. You really trust the world to protect you? Danielle gave a faint smile. Not the world. The truth. The doors burst open with a deafening crash. Officers in riot gear stormed in, weapons raised. Hands where we can see them, a voice barked. Danielle lifted her hands slowly. Torres did the same, but her gun was still holstered. From behind the line of officers, a familiar figure stepped out. Officer Crane. His uniform was unbuttoned halfway, eyes dark, jaw tight. The rain dripping from his hair made him look almost ghostly. Move aside, he said to his men. She's mine. Torres stepped forward instantly. You're out of line, Crane. You're not even supposed to be here. He ignored her, his gaze locked on Danielle. You think you humiliated me in front of the world and walk away? Danielle met his eyes, unflinching. You humiliated yourself. Crane's face twitched, rage boiling over. You ruined my life. Danielle's voice was calm, low, almost pitying. No, Crane. You ruined your own the moment you forgot what justice means. The standoff crackled with tension. Rain poured through the broken doorway. Torres took a step closer to Crane. Put your weapon down. This isn't the way. He turned to her, sneering. You think you're clean, Torres? You work for them too. Torres's hand twitched near her holster. Not anymore. That single moment, 1 second of silence, was all it took for chaos to erupt. Crane lunged forward, shoving past 2 officers, gun drawn. Danielle ducked, instincts kicking in like muscle memory. He fired, 1 shot, missing her by inches, the bullet shattering the mirror behind her. Torres returned fire, hitting the wall just beside him, forcing him back. Stand down, someone screamed, but Crane didn't stop. He charged again, fury blinding him. Danielle sidestepped, grabbed his arm, and twisted. His gun fell to the floor. She followed through with a clean judo sweep, taking his legs out from under him. The wind knocked from his chest. She stood over him, drenched, breath heavy. "Still think I don't belong here," she said quietly. Crane spat blood, glaring up at her. "You think people will believe you? They'll call you a criminal forever." Danielle leaned down, voice steady. "Then I'll be a criminal who told the truth." Torres cuffed Crane as the other officers surrounded them, unsure whether to arrest or applaud. "Call the captain," Torres barked. "We're not sweeping this one under the rug." But before anyone could respond, a voice echoed from the doorway, cold, commanding. "Enough." Everyone turned. Standing there, umbrella in hand, was Captain Darius Lyle, head of the department, the man whose name topped the corruption files. He walked slowly across the soaked floor, eyes scanning the scene. "Well, this is quite a show," he said smoothly. "2 officers, 1 fugitive, and a live stream that's making my phone melt." Torres straightened. "Captain, the evidence is out. It's over. The city knows." Lyle smiled faintly. "Oh, I doubt that. The internet forgets fast." He looked at Danielle. "You should have stayed quiet, Ms. Brooks. Now you've got nothing left to lose." Danielle stared at him, rainwater dripping down her face. "You're wrong. I've got everything to fight for." He took a step closer. "You think truth wins here? Truth bends to power. Always has." She didn't move. "Maybe in your world. Not in mine." For a moment, silence filled the room. Then, from outside, came the sound of hundreds of voices, chanting, yelling, echoing through the night. "Justice for Danielle." It was the crowd. The protesters had found them. The live stream hadn't just gone viral, it had pinpointed their location. The street outside filled with people, cameras flashing, news drones hovering. Lyle's calm cracked. "Get those people out of here," he barked. But it was too late. Every move he made was being filmed, every word recorded. Torres looked at Danielle, whispering, "He's trapped." Danielle nodded. "Now he knows how we felt." Lyle reached for his radio, but before he could speak, one of the younger officers hesitated, then stepped forward. "Sir, we're not covering for this anymore." Another followed. "We saw the files. We're done lying." Lyle's eyes widened. "You're making a mistake." Torres replied coldly, "No, Captain. You did." He looked around, realizing the circle had turned against him. He dropped his radio slowly, then raised his hands. For the first time in years, the man who controlled the city's police had no control at all. By dawn, the news had spread across the country. Police corruption network exposed. Whistleblower officer and civilian bring down captain. The footage of Danielle's confrontation played on every channel. The video of her flipping Crane was now followed by her final live stream, calling for justice with calm defiance. She wasn't just a viral story anymore. She had become a symbol. In the days that followed, multiple officers were suspended, including Crane and Lyle. The DA launched an official probe. And Danielle's brother Malik's case? Dismissed. Completely cleared. But for Danielle, freedom didn't mean peace. She sat on the courthouse steps days later, the same building where everything began. The press waited nearby, but she wasn't speaking today. She just wanted quiet. Torres joined her, 2 coffees in hand. "They're calling you the courtroom warrior, you know," she said with a small grin. Danielle chuckled softly. "Sounds like a comic book." "Or a movement," Torres said. Danielle stared at the morning sun rising over the city. "I didn't want fame. I just wanted fairness." Torres looked at her. "And that's exactly why people trust you." A week later, Danielle received a letter. No return address, just a wax seal. Inside was a single sentence: "Sometimes it takes one flip to turn the world upside down." Beneath it was a business card. The Justice Reform Initiative, Washington, D.C. She smiled. Maybe this fight wasn't over, it was just changing arenas. Months passed. The city began to heal. Police reforms were introduced. Internal affairs had new leadership. And on a warm summer morning, Danielle opened a small self-defense school in her old neighborhood. Kids, teens, and even mothers lined up to learn from the woman they'd seen on TV. On the wall above the mats, painted in bold letters, were the words her father once said to her. Power isn't in the hit, it's in the control. She watched the students practice, laughter filling the room. Then, as she adjusted a young girl's stance, she heard someone behind her say, "Still teaching judo, huh?" She turned, and there stood Maya Torres, smiling, in civilian clothes. "Couldn't resist dropping by," Torres said. "You built something beautiful here." Danielle nodded. "It's not about fighting. It's about standing tall." Torres smiled. "Guess we both learned that the hard way." They stood together, watching the next generation move, learning, growing, each strike not about anger, but about balance. That night, Danielle locked up the dojo alone. She walked outside, breathing in the quiet city air. Her reflection shimmered faintly in a puddle under the streetlight. She whispered to herself, "We flipped more than a man. We flipped a system." Her phone buzzed. A notification popped up. Congressional hearing invites Danielle Brooks to testify on police accountability. She smiled faintly. The fight had just reached a new level. And as she walked away under the soft glow of the streetlight, her silhouette strong and unbroken, her father's words echoed in her mind, like a benediction. "Power isn't in what you can destroy, Danielle. It's in what you can change." She looked up at the stars and whispered, "I'm still changing it, Daddy." Fade out. Would you have had the courage to stand up like Danielle did? Tell us in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to Residential Stories for more real, powerful tales like this one. Because sometimes, one moment of courage can flip the whole world.